Morning, Connor.
Morning.
How's the little one?
Not sleeping.
Not sleeping through the night yet?
Been
The
there.
good old days.
We're no more than one.
All the parents. More
The tap. One says, I want to be under the
was, yeah.
cap.
Okay. Sorry about that.
All right, we're up and running. Let's get this party started. We recording? And we're recording. Great. I call to order the counties of Warren and Washington Industrial Development Agency Audit and Finance Committee meeting on March 30th, 2026 at 10:09 a.m. May I get a please roll call, Ally?
Connor McCoy,
Here.
Brian Campbell,
Here.
Mark Earshaw,
Here.
alternate Juan Gonzalez.
Here.
We have a quorum.
Great. We will turn it over to the auditor to review the 2025 IDA audit and CDC audit. It's Brian,
Thank you.
that's you.
Thanks, appreciate it. Just want to make sure you guys can hear me.
Yes.
Yes.
Wonderful. So bear with me a moment while I pull up a slideshow.
Mission to share.
I can move this up a little bit. Connor, can you see?
I'm seeing it.
Eagle eyes.
I got it.
We could smart screen that if it projected, but
We'll make sure the slide deck gets pushed out to everybody after the meeting as well.
after we voted on it.
They have for reference. So we discussed it here.
Try this again. Never know which one it's actually going to end up showing.
This is still.
Still not
Good.
that one.
You're seeing,
All
you're seeing
right.
the first page of the slide.
Yeah, I'm working with 4 screens here, so I just got to be able to figure out which one I actually have to show. Try that one. How about now?
Yes.
Well done.
Perfect.
All right, so good morning, everyone. My name is Brian Sama. I'm a director at EFPR Group, and I'm here to go over the audit for the counties of Warren and Washington Industrial Development Agency for the year ended December 31, 2025. Some of the things that we'll go over today on the agenda are the engagement team, the timing of our procedures, some high-level audit results, and then again, some high-level financial results. So our engagement team consisted of 3 upper-level management. I've already introduced myself. Also associated with the account is Tom Smith. He is the engagement partner, and he's responsible for the overall relationship with the IDA, as well as for the final review of the file and financial statements. There is a second partner associated with the account, that is Doug Zimmerman. He is what is known as the quality control and technical review partner. After Tom and I have been through both our file and the financial statements, Doug will take a review from an independent standpoint to make sure that everything that is embodied in those financial statements adheres to not only all of our industry standards, but all the standards that our firm sets as well. In terms of the timing of procedures, we were on site the week of February 9th. We were able to get through all the information with a little bit of back and forth afterwards via email and issue a draft of the financial statements on March 9th. And then I'm here today to present the results of the audit. From our standpoint, our audit and the file are in very good shape, subject to a few administrative procedures. We are essentially ready to issue these financial statements in their final format. We would just need the approval or recommendation from the audit committee or board to be able to proceed. And then that way the IDA is able to meet the 3/31 deadline for filing with ABA. All right, so for the high-level audit results, we are expected to issue unmodified opinions on the basic financial statements for the IDA and the CDC. An unmodified opinion is a clean audit opinion. It is the highest rated opinion that you can get for your financial statements, and ultimately means that the financial statements are presented in accordance with generally accepted accounting principles, and that there are no material misstatements embodied within those financial statements. Everything that we requested was available for our inspection and was very timely provided by Ally and or Chuck or Karen. There were no issues with any of the information that they were presenting us, and no disagreements on anything that was requested along the way. We are reporting one deficiency in internal control as a material weakness, 2025-001. This is the same finding as last year for material audit adjustments. I did want to elaborate on this. I think last year we had somewhere in the range of 10 or 11 adjustments for approximately $750,000. This year we have a lesser amount of adjustments. I think it was somewhere in the range of 6, and it's only approximately $170,000 this year. So a lot of improvement being made. Typically these types of findings are not we issue one year and we clear it the next. It's usually a multiple year type of finding, and then it takes several years to clear up things before they end up getting resolved. So a lot of progress being made. Hopefully we continue to see that over this next year, and the idea would likely be able to look to alleviate this finding in the coming audit. There was a second finding associated with last year's audit for the late filing with the ABO. We are on track this year to not have to repeat that finding, so I did want to point that out, that finding is likely going to be cleared this year. And then there were no other items that we are required to disclose for noncompliance or other matters in accordance with government audit standards or the investment guidelines. All right, in terms of the financial results, I'll start with the IDA. Your total assets decreased about 6.8 million from, oh my gosh, 14 point something down to about 7.9 million. The biggest decrease is related to writing down the market value of the land held for resale. We found that several parcels were established at their assessed value, but what they're ultimately selling for is somewhere in the range of about $1,000 to $5,000. So we did write down a lot of those parcels of land, as well as the water decommissioning energization plant project that had probably the biggest write down. Your total liabilities were ultimately consistent. Those only increased about $19,000 to a balance of $136,000. And then your net position decreased in a similar fashion compared to the write down of the land by about 6.3 million. In terms of operating revenue increased about 940,000. There was 330,000 generated from projects, 225,000 from railroad usage fees, and then there was a new grant this year from the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development. That grant also resulted in an increase in your operating expenses by about 240,000 this year. In terms of the non-operating expenses, those ended at about 6.9 million, with the major portion of that being related to the writing down the market value of the land. All right, in terms of the CDC, there's not a whole lot of activity going on here. But your total assets did decrease about $65,000. And total liabilities decreased by about $67,000, mainly due to repaying amounts owed between the IDA and the CDC. Net position decreased about $1,800 to a balance of $66,000. And then operating expenses remained consistent. That mainly consisted of our audit fees, and non-operating revenue increased $4,200 due to interest in clearing up old reconciling items for your cash. All right, and then this last slide is just mine and Tom's contact information. If you guys have any questions at any point in time, please do not hesitate to reach out. We are your auditors year round. It's not just during this 1-2 month time frame where we're performing an audit and answering questions related to that. We do appreciate questions throughout the year just because it helps us stay on top of what's going on with your agency or addressing problems at the time that they occur rather than 6 or 9 months later when we're all trying to remember what's going on. So again, please do not hesitate to reach out if you have any questions. And now I'd like to open it up to questions.
Anybody with any questions? Not yet. Good.
I have a question.
Sure, absolutely.
Looking ahead into 2026, Brian, you explained we have some new accounting standards. We have 3 that should apply to us. One of them looks more impactful than the other 2. And it's statement 103. It's the financial reporting model improvements. Would you mind just spending a couple minutes explaining what's coming up in 2026 for that new standard?
Yeah, so exactly kind of what the standard says, it's financial reporting model improvements. Ultimately, the 2 biggest pieces that are going to impact you on this are the presentation of the management's discussion and analysis. The standard setters wanted to kind of simplify the presentation and get rid of certain information that has been presented or been acceptable as being presented in the MD&A and limit it to very specific guidelines on how things are presented across the board. So historically, some entities or agencies would present like budgetary information within their management discussion and analysis. The new standard gets rid of that. It also wants to get rid of the duplication of explaining of results. So at multiple times, you would discuss the changes in your fixed assets throughout your capital assets throughout your management's discussion analysis. It might be at the beginning and then there's a section towards the end. They basically want you to now state that in the beginning, that the results of your changes in your capital assets are now described in a further section of the MD&A rather than reiterating that information twice. So there is going to be a substantial change in the presentation of your MD&A. We've already got several engagements that have been factoring this in this year, but that's just allowing us to kind of get a little bit of a head start to make sure that we're implementing this or assisting with the implementation of this across the board. So by the time your 26 audit rolls around, we should have this pretty well down and we'll be able to kind of implement this pretty seamlessly so that you guys don't see any hiccups with this information. The second piece that is going to be a little bit more impactful with this standard as it relates to you is the classifications of operating versus non-operating or non-capital operating items and subsidies. Right now, the standard is pretty simplistic in a sense where you've got 3 essential categories, which is operating revenue, operating expenses, and then non-operating revenue and expenses. It's going to now separate certain activities to classify them as either operating revenue, operating expenses, capital and non-capital subsidies, and then non-operating revenue and non-operating expenses. So a little bit more of an expansion and then additional clarifications as to what items fall under those classifications within your financial statements. That again is something that we can help with and assist with on the implementation. That's not going to be any additional charge associated with that for the audits.
So thank you. So would it make sense for us to start maybe in the late fall or 4th quarter to try to get ahead of this before January and February of next year?
I think so. I think the best thing that we can do is essentially kind of go line by line and see what is going to be classified, or with our current structure, go line by line and see what is classified within those operating revenue and expenses and non-operating revenue and expenses, and see where that they are going to essentially land in the new classifications. And that'll allow us to kind of just regroup our trial balance and make this a little bit more of a seamless process too.
Should we have the meeting sooner than later, or do we wait till a little bit later in the year?
I think early to mid fall is probably a good time. That's essentially when we start hitting a little bit of a slower season. We have a little bit more time on our hands. Plus, by that point, you'll have 10, 9, 10, 11 months of activity in case something new pops up that we wouldn't see right now. That allows that time to kind of get and hit into your books so that it'll come up in our initial analysis.
Got it. Thank you.
Well, we could code them as we go along, right?
Yeah, we're coding now. It just there'll probably be some adjustments made back and forth that might occur at fourth quarter or so. But as Brian said, I guess you mentioned, let's get 9 months of history and then we can work with it. Because we do have a lot going on right now. If you think about
And that's what I'm saying is if you're going along, it's pretty easier to separate them 9 or 11 months later.
Yeah, I mean, you can certainly do this analysis from now until we decide to meet, and then it might make our part a little bit easier where we're not spending as much time sitting there asking a ton of questions. We can review the information you already have, and then it simplifies whatever questions we do have.
And there might only be a few nuances where it's questionable as to whether they're non-operating or operating. You know?
exactly. Yep. I'd rather get ahead of it.
Yeah, no, it's a lot easier than going backwards.
Good. Anybody else?
I think the only other statement that's really expected to have an impact is GASB 104. That's going to be on capital assets and the classifications of them. For the most part, you are doing that standard in accordance with the applicable standards as it is. But there is going to be a little bit of clarification on whether or not certain assets are held for resale and whether or not they should be not depreciated or depreciated. The good news is that all the assets that you have for resale are essentially land and you don't depreciate land. So it's really not going to have any crazy impact. But if there ever is a point in time where you start buying equipment or other real property that can be depreciated, that's something that we would have to evaluate at that point in time.
Great. Charlie.
I have a question, and I guess it's the right time to ask it on. We've got a little over 5 pages on the pension, which is out of our control, but it has a $175,000 potential swing up or down from plus or minus 1%. Should we be concerned about that? Is this just boilerplate that you do for everybody who's in the Neisler system? How do we think of this?
For the most part, it is essentially boilerplate. The state's auditor for the pension system this year, I don't know if it's going to change in future years, but right now it's KPMG. They publish their own reports with all this specific information and how it is essentially valued. That table that you are talking about, the sensitivity to the discount rate, just is designed to kind of give you an idea if the state were to change the discount rate from the 5.9% that it is currently at, and how significant of an impact it would be. Ultimately, though, it's a giant estimate. It's not necessarily something that is really in your control. The only things that are truly in your control are what you pay your employees, and then what essential, I guess, not even truly that, what tier they fall into and how much the contributions are going to be related to in them. But again, the contributions then come from the state as to what they say you need to make towards the system, and there's not a whole lot of information or a whole lot that you can really do about that. Not paying those contributions tends to have a little bit more of a significant impact than anything across the board on that. But otherwise, yeah, it's a pretty standardized disclosure across the board for most people.
That's a blank check, isn't it, Brian?
I wish it were a blank check.
It is. You pay them whatever they ask for.
Pretty much.
You just sign the line and they cash it.
Yeah, well, unfortunately, it goes that way. It doesn't come back either. So
I know. Yeah.
Charlie.
yeah, most I was gonna say most municipal clients, most counties, towns, they don't necessarily care about the liability that is associated with the pension system. Moreover, they care about what their annual contributions are going to be and how much and how close they can actually budget for those contributions on an annual basis. So.
And we as a municipality-based organization can't opt out of this for future employees and structure a different retirement system. Is that right?
You cannot opt out. I think new employees have the option to not opt into it. But in my experience, a lot of people do end up taking municipal jobs specifically for the pension system. What I have been seeing on the news or even on social media a lot lately is a lot of complaint regarding the various tiered systems and how tier 6 essentially needs to be fixed. So I would expect that to be something to kind of keep an eye on over the next couple of years to see how that whole situation evolves, though.
And just add a note, I was reclassified from tier 6 to tier 4.
Well, how'd you sneak that?
Actually,
You
my
pushed the
first-
truck.
No, my
over
first
somewhere
job out
on
of college was the Port Authority in Newark, New Jersey. So I actually,
Oh, you,
so I.
not even in New York.
And you know, and it is New York. It is New York system.
Okay.
So when I joined the IDA, they said, "Oh, you qualify." I said, "I do," and then I had to do an application. I had to do some funding. Anyways, the point being is for the IDA, there are no more contributions on my behalf because I'm in tier 4.
Just the regular state tax system.
Well,
Right, right,
There's always taxes.
right. But it's much the
you don't
tier 6,
contribute, but
tier
we
6,
do.
Florida.
right? Tier 6
Like,
versus
you
tier
can-
4. No, and me too.
Love the way you told that.
Me too.
You could be a politician.
All right,
Thank
anyway, let's bring it back.
Different subject, we're not on ours.
Yeah,
All right.
save that one for a beer. All right, anybody got anything else for Brian? All right. With no further questions, I will entertain a motion to accept and approve the 2025 IDA and CDC audit reports. Connor, second. Brian. Get a roll call, please, of the audit and finance committee members. Ellie?
Connor McCoy,
Here.
Yes.
do you
Yes.
approve? Okay, thank you. Brian Campbell,
Yes.
Mark Yershaw,
Yes.
Juan Gonzalez.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Great, motion passes. Moving on to the 2025 CDC Form 990 report review. Were there any questions? But I got a chance to review that. That's pretty standard, not a lot of movement there year over year. There are no initial questions. I will entertain a motion to accept the 2025 CDC Form 90 report. Brian, second. Mark. Any further discussions? Get a roll call of the Audit Finance Committee, please, Ally.
Connor McCoy,
Yes.
Brian Campbell,
Yes.
Mark Yershaw,
Yes.
Juan Gonzalez.
Yes,
Motion passes.
great. With that, I'll open it up for any final discussions or any final questions for our Auditor Brian. Thank you so much. All right, no questions. I'll entertain a motion to adjourn the Audit and Finance Committee meeting. Brian, second. Mark. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed or abstained? None. Motion carries. We are adjourned. All right, let me hold you for one more second, Brian, if I may, if you don't have to leave. I will call to order the Counties of Warren and Washington Industrial Development Agency special board meeting on March 30th, 2026 at 10:31 a.m. If I may get a roll call, please, Ally.
Brian Campbell,
Here.
Dan Bruno,
Here.
Kevin Mahoney.
Here.
Connor McCoy,
Here.
Charlie Tall,
Here.
Mark Yershaw.
Here.
Juan Gonzalez.
Here.
We have a quorum.
Great. Brian, I thought you were gonna say yes. All right, moving on. Let's look at the 2025 IDA and CDC audit. Any final questions for our auditor? Obviously, for the record, that we just had the Audit and Finance Committee meeting and had all our questions at that point. With no questions, I will entertain a motion to approve the 2025 IDA and CDC audit report. Move, Charlie, second. Mark. Roll call, please, Ally.
Brian Campbell,
Yes.
Dan Bruno,
Yes.
Kevin Mahoney.
Yes.
Connor McCoy,
Yes.
Charlie Tall,
Yes.
Mark Yershaw,
Yes.
Juan Gonzalez.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Great. Moving on to the 2025 CDC Form 90 report. Initial discussion, if any. Not hearing any, I will entertain a motion to approve the 2025 CDC Form 990 report. Connor, second. Brian. Roll call, please, Ally.
Brian Campbell,
Yes.
Dan Bruno,
Yes.
Kevin Mahoney,
Yes.
Connor McCoy,
Yes.
Charlie Tall,
Yes.
Mark Yershaw,
Yes.
Juan Gonzalez.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Motion passes. Great. Thank you so much. Brian, thank you so much. We will be connecting. We've got gonna take you up on your offer of meeting maybe a couple times to get us ready for next year. So thank you so much. Please pass our regards to your team. We look forward to continue the partnership.
Sound good. Thanks, guys.
Great. Thank you so much. Park chair, please. Park chair, chairman, please.
Yes, not much to report really. I was at Canal Side yesterday and concerning Kiewit, they cleaned up 99% of what they had there. They're out of there. Tomorrow afternoon, Mr. Barton and I will tour the site with a representative from Kiewit to see if there's any additional items to be removed or cleaned up or whatever. What's his name?
Everett.
Everett. I always think of Eric. Anyway, Everett's been working a little bit on the clearing of the small trees, etc., around the site and around the stormwater control basins and that sort of thing. Site looks pretty good. I noticed the number of rail cars pertaining to the grain unloading and all that are down significantly from what they were. I think there were 10 or 12 there. I talked to Mr. Barton as I was out there. So that seems to be slowing down a little bit for what that's worth. Other than that, not a lot to report there. Mr. Barton, I'm sure will expand upon it with regard to STS and ongoing activities there. Airport Industrial Park, pretty static there. Again, Mr. Barton may know some things regarding the potential sale of the remaining lots and where we stand with that. So other than that, that's my limited report.
Not too much, there's not much ice left over there. Is it all cleared already? Do you know?
Where?
Any, in a canal side? Any?
Canal
Large.
side? No, it's pretty clear.
Pretty clear. Pretty good.
Yeah, you
All
can
right.
drive around there with ease. And
Any questions for Park Chair? All right, we'll turn it over to our CEO to brief canal side and
Okay.
AFP.
So good morning. Have my typical 4 pages, but the good news is I'm not going to do any updates that are not going to talk about anything that there's no updates since our meeting 2 weeks ago today. So I'll only do very specific updates. The first is actually the board approval. You might recall as far as the East Street entrance road modification that the DOT provided second round design modification request. So Bob Holmes has incorporated in design drawings and the DOT has subsequently approved. The minor design modification triggered a minor construction change order for $6,446 that is ready for board approval. Bob Holmes and Mr. Bruno have reviewed the change order proposal, which is in your board package, and had no concerns. So with that, Mr. Bruno, anything to add?
no, I think you've got it. It's pretty straightforward. And as you stated, it's by comparison to the overall project, it's fairly minor. And, I think they did a good job. Mr. Holmes did a good job. So, and incorporating the requests from DOT into the project design.
All right, with that, I will entertain a motion to approve the change order for WMJ Keller and Sons in the amount of $6,444 or $46. Mark, second. Kevin. Roll call, please, Ally.
Brian Campbell,
Yes.
Dan Bruno,
Yes.
Kevin Mahoney,
Yes.
Connor McCoy,
Yes.
Charlie Tall,
Yes.
Mark Yershaw,
Yes.
Juan Gonzalez.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Motion passes. I do apologize. I did miss the discussion portion if there's any discussions. Great, moving on. All right.
Okay, so continuing with the road modification project, Canal Corp. The application for work permit has been submitted to the Albany office. It's been acknowledged. We're hoping Canal Corp will approve in April. Construction is planned to start May 1st and expect to be completed by June 30th. I did speak with Nick Hansen, who's a local operations manager, whose property, he's responsible for the property where the road is being modified. He's actually talking with Albany today to see if he can nudge it along so we can get that work permit as soon as possible. And then finally, the Lock 8-way bridge replacement. We have learned that the steel will not be delivered until September, so that start date of that project might slide a month or two. Nothing dramatic. We think the project will still be done within 2026. And that's it for canals. Oh, one other thing. Actually, Mr. Bruno already mentioned that we're touring the site for what they're calling the final site inspection. So we're doing that tomorrow. We've been driving through the site for the past couple of weeks, and they've been cleaning up quite nicely. So honestly, we're not expecting anything, but we'll do a final check tomorrow. And that's it, not only for canal side, but also airport industrial park, unless there are any questions. I did have a call from Bill Hafner. The gentleman is looking to buy the Ferguson Lane extension. We talked on Friday. He is talking with the town about incentives, investment incentives. Kingsbury has not always been supportive of incentives, so I've given him some draft numbers, and he's going to talk with the town supervisor, and we'll see where that goes. So that is in the works right now. That's really in Mr. Hafner's wheelhouse right now to deal with the town on these possible incentives. If the town says no, just as further background, the town is formally involved in the approval process. So if the town supervisor says no, then we will not advance the application for incentives.
Right.
But we could do, I'm sorry, I'm going a little deeper than I should. That's what the pilot, he could still do mortgage tax exemption and sales tax exemption. And now he'll see what happens with the town supervisor before he chooses what he wants to do or not do.
Was he seeking at the town supervisor level just support for what he wants us to approve, or something special?
The town will formally, not only will our board approve any incentives, the pilot incentives,
Okay.
so will the town formally. We will notify them, and they'll actually do a town board meeting to vote on it. And then once they support it, if they support it, then we would bring it to this board for approval.
Basically, certain towns have veto power, and that's one of them.
Yeah.
Kingsbury does? Okay.
Yeah.
I see.
Okay, and that's it, unless there are any questions.
Great. Any final discussions? Any public comments? Do we have anybody from the public online?
We do not.
With that, I will entertain a motion to adjourn the meeting. Brian, second. Dan. All in favor?
Yeah.
Aye. Any opposed or abstain? Motion carries. We are adjourned. Thanks, everybody. We appreciate your time.
Do it all again.